Hello, my name is Sakar Beeson. I'll be talking about the informal used lead-acid batteries recycling, also known as ULAB. So just a quick background. Lead is used primarily for high-level energy storage in motor vehicles, backup power supplies, and even as a source of energy for places where power is unreliable. Usually these places are low and middle-income countries where infrastructure is not really developed. With many countries becoming more industrialized and their output is increasing, lead's demand has surged immensely. Almost 85% of lead is actually used primarily for lead acid batteries, the other 15% being used as storage containers for waste from nuclear power plants. So as we see, as the world uh, goes towards a greener energy solutions, lead will play an important role. In fact, almost 50% of lead production comes from recycling itself. Usually year over year, many of these spent uh, LABs are taken and they're recycled for the lead to use in future lead acid batteries. With that said, lead is a very toxic metal, mimicking other metals that are vital to the function of our body, whether it be in our bones, mimicking calcium, in our brains, mimicking magnesium. It affects those functions. So lead oftentimes inhibits those said enzymes and proteins and can lead to mental problems and physical ailments, especially in children. While much of the high-income world recognize the problem and have the resources to solve it, low and middle-income countries are fortunately stuck with what is its preventable problem. With rising demand for this metal, many people are turning to recycle this metal that is growing demand year over year. And the recycling that's done is very crude conditions, whether it be from breaking it open, the batteries, melting the batteries, or even transporting it. Oftentimes the workers and the surrounding environment are exposed to lead fumes or tiny particulates of lead that can then go into the environment, other people's food resources and water resources, and could have a wide effect that has broad negative consequences. So an example of such site is Ogobogloshi, becoming one of the most informal recycling places in Ghana. Ogobogloshi has become both as a source of income for the individual and the region as a whole. Not to mention, it helps them access technology that would normally be very expensive to get. 50 million tons are getting thrown away, of which only 20% get recycled. In fact, one study has shown that much of the e-waste that comes through Ogobogloshi is in fact actually very new technology and helps Ghana have an access to very cheap technology. Many of the components are usually burned for the precious metals such as copper, zinc, lead, and even aluminum, sometimes gold and silver as well, used in many electronics, but very fine. A crucial point to realize is that Ghana and many West African nations themselves produce an excess of trash. While yes, the Western nations do transport much of their e-waste, and that could be regulated both on the federal level and international levels within their respective countries, much of the trash in these developing nations is also a main cause of concern. So although we could try to just ban exportation importation of it, domestically there's still the problem that will exist. So looking at an actual similar site where it was only used primarily for lead, it showed inadequate safety measures, inadequate personal protection, and lack of understanding of the health situation by the workers. And as a result, it found elevated blood levels, high airborne lead concentration, and high soil contamination as well. So if this specialized area for lead production has shown this inadequacies, then I'm sure Ogobogloshi also has similar issues. So we asked three professionals about their solutions and how they would approach it. At first, they didn't know about the problem, but after explaining to them the situation going on, they proposed very unique solutions. So the professional one was a chemist. This professional, hearing about the problem and understanding that there is a livelihood for many people, decided perhaps to have lead batteries taxed at high rates in international communities. They felt that if they could not ban them specifically, but make them obsolete in many rich nations where there's alternatives such as lithium ion, nickel cadmium, and alkaline batteries, it would lessen the supply that comes through and there's therefore less exposure. They feel that by increasing the prices, lead lead acid batteries would become obsolete, and less of them would want to recycle unless production would be in place. With that said, there are a few problems with that. In terms of analysis, although it's a very smart solution to solve the issue at the start, we forget that lead acid has a very high power to weight ratio, hence why it's used in many cars and transportation vehicles. So that tax that is proposed would oftentimes just go back onto the consumer, and actually it would make lead, although counterintuitive, more valuable because there's more expenses coming in. So Tesla themselves use lithium ion, but accept the power density is not enough. Not to mention the supply concerns they have with getting lithium themselves. Lead acid batteries are way cheaper to produce, but by adding this tax on, it makes them expensive in a different way where it's just more profitable. Conclusion: not a great idea if only used as such without other policy changes. So Professional 2 was a teacher. Due to the recent coronavirus pandemic, they had very great success in how they educate the kids and how they make sure that they follow protocols and whatnot. And they feel that this is just another great way of solving an issue by using education and making sure the workers know what they're dealing with. He believed that teaching them will make them understand how to approach this toxic model and what ways to protect themselves. He mentioned the fact that many U.S. workers know the risks and are properly following protocols within the U.S. with many dangerous chemicals. Finally, educating them gives them the power to make better choices and overall just improves their livelihood in how they can make decisions, in what ways they want to work, and whatnot. This I definitely resonated with a lot because education does sound like an optimal option. It's very easy to implement and can reach a wide stretch of people. Many do not know actually the damage they're causing to themselves and their families and the environment. But looking at the downsides, many also do not have the time to go through this education and whatnot. And also some even know the risk and are still willing to take it because of how dire the economic situations there are there in their home communities. Which leads us to the final solution, a nonprofit founder. They also work in the education industry, but often realize that many of the problems are very structural and want to attack the structural problems. So they advocated for many governments to invest in the areas and make sure they are state-of-the-art facilities, make sure the lead is processed safely and workers are out of harm's way, and even have an international organization go through with enforcement of safety standards, since local governments may have resources for compliance. They've seen success with this in educating and how they were able to bring together wide stakeholders in how to make sure that all of them are included and everybody's able to really profit from it, and able to grow. So the analysis, probably the most popular support and most widely used, in fact. While other solutions do have merit, they still do not solve the core issue, an economic safety net, that many of these informal ULAB, recycling sites, and other sites offer. This allows people to engage in highly profitable systems while also protecting their health and environment. In fact, the German government put almost £5 million into developing the sustainable environmentally friendly site at Ogobogloschi. They feel that you cannot stop them from just doing their livelihood, so it's best if all of us come together and invest in these areas. Technology has also gotten better in terms of safety standards efficiency. Maybe many risky parts of that endeavor we can have automated machines take over and try to make sure everything's okay. So in conclusion, the last analysis and the last solution offered by the nonprofit founder is really probably the best way. Because of our expertise in nonprofits, the solution she proposed is very much in line of how the industry is thinking about situations, which is many of these problems are structural, and it requires many people involved to make sure these problems are solved, not just one silver bullet that can change everything. With that said, the other sectors do bring up excellent points, and involving those other solutions would be great ideas in making sure that lead acid is recycled safely. But making sure the facilities go from open air burning pits to state-of-the-art recycling places would drastically help people. But it does require heavy investment, as said before, and constant supply of making changes and maintenance, as well as heavy regulation. And this must be an international effort, just like any other environmental problem. Because oftentimes many of these externalities are not necessarily held to one person within one place, but rather spread out over many areas. And so it's necessary to price in these externalities, negative externalities actually, and make sure many of the people are working together. Thank you for listening to the presentation, and here are my references. I greatly appreciate your time, and thank you again.